Good evening and welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. In a fiery address at an army post, the Army Chief, General Upendra Dwivedi, delivered a chilling ultimatum to Pakistan. This time, we will not maintain the restraint that we had in Op Sindoor 1.0. This time, we'll do something that will make Pakistan think whether it wants to retain its place in geography or not. Citing India's evidence against state-sponsored terror, he vowed to erase threats without mercy if attacks continue. Earlier today, the Indian Air Force Chief said that as many as 10 Pakistan Air Force aircraft were destroyed during Op Sindoor. The remarks clearly escalate Indo-Pak tensions, perhaps taking them to the brink. The Air Chief made these remarks ahead of Air Force Day. On the show tonight, is India preparing for Op Sindoor Part 2?
On ground, because of our strikes, there have been radars at least 4 places, command and control centers at 2 places, runway, of course, damaged at 2 places. Then 3 of their hangars in 3 different stations have been damaged. And in that hangar, as well as on tarmac, we have signs of one C-130 class of aircraft, one AEW&C class of aircraft, and at least 4 to 5 fighter aircraft, most likely F-16, because that base happened to be F-16, which would have been under maintenance that time. Along with that, one SAM system, which has been destroyed. And so these are the strikes that, the destruction that has taken place on ground by our strikes.
तो ये मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि इस बार भारत देश पूरी तैयारी के साथ है और इस बार वो संयम नहीं रखेगा जो सिंदूर 1.0 में हमने संयम रखा। इस बार हम आगे की कार्रवाई करेंगे और कुछ ऐसी कार्रवाई करेंगे कि हो सकता है पाकिस्तान को सोचना पड़े कि उसे इतिहास में भूगोल में रहना है कि नहीं रहना है। अगर उसे भूगोल में अपनी जगह बनानी है तो उसके लिए उसे जो स्टेट स्पॉन्सर टेररिज्म जिसको हम बोलते हैं, यानी कि उसका देश जो टेररिज्म को स्पॉन्सर कर रहा है उसे रोकना पड़ेगा।
Well, let's give you an idea of what the Air Force Chief was talking about in terms of the precision hits of the Indian Air Force. It was NDTV that produced a lot of these high-resolution satellite imagery, and I think it's important to actually talk about what he was referring to. Now, this is an earlier image from the 9th of April of Muridke. This was one of the primary strikes of the Indian Air Force. Remember, the Indian Air Force hit 2 of the major areas, Muridke and Bahawalpur. There were 9 strikes in total, but the ones which required heavier weaponry were done by the Indian Air Force. This is an image of the 7th of May, the very same day that this was targeted. You can see over here, May 7th, this particular building has been completely taken out over there. Let's move to the next one. This is an image of Bahawalpur. This is before the strike on the 2nd of May, the structure entirely intact. And you can see over here on the 7th of May, the structure destroyed on the very same day that India struck over there. The next couple of pictures will also tell you a little bit more. Bahawalpur, another area over there, and you can see that precision weaponry actually took out some of the domes over here in this structure. This was a major terror training camp. The Jaish-e-Mohammed and the Lashkar-e-Toiba were in Bahawalpur and in Muridke, which I just showed you. But later on, as the war went on, India started hitting out at Pakistani air bases. This is in Sakar. This is a UAV hangar which was entirely destroyed. You can see images of a vegetation burn having taken place, a massive explosion over here. Chances that if there were any UAVs in the structure slightly away from it, then this had been destroyed as well. The next image that you're going to see on your screen over here also shows you how the IAF was using a variety of weapons to actually strike. This was a munition crater about 3 meters wide, probably hitting a command and control center deep down, located approximately 30 meters away from an entrance to this underground area. That's the entrance that you can see on your screen over there, and leading to what the IAF would have believed was a command and control center, or perhaps an ammunition depot, but a massive explosion which could have been triggered from underneath up. The next image that you see is of Sargodha, what the Indian Air Force was doing. And this is an image of the 10th of May, the last day of active fighting. Remember, Pakistan came onto the ceasefire table. It wasn't cratering the runway. Sargodha, a major base of the Pakistan Air Force, that's a massive crater which took place at the PF base of Mushaf in Sargodha. Remember, in 1971, we hit the Pakistani Air Force in bases like Sargodha. In 2025, we did it again. We'll bring you a few more images of runways being cratered. You saw one image of Sargodha. These are other images. This is an earlier image from the 30th of April 2025. Nothing over here specifically on this stretch of the runway. And on the 10th of May, that same stretch of the runway over here cratered. That means it was not available for use by Pakistani Air Force fighters positioned in Sargodha. But let's now move on to some of the other images. Rahim Yar Khan, another area, an image of May 10th, the same day when Indian Air Force struck. Before it actually struck, this runway was absolutely fine. But then a couple of hours later, another satellite image which shows an impact point over here, clearly indicating that this runway 2 out of operation. It seems small here. In fact, the width of these explosions of the craters themselves were large. This is the Noor Khan Air Base. This is located absolutely in the heart of Pakistan, near their central leadership. A command and control set up over here, destroyed. There were a couple of command and control trucks, perhaps a structure underneath this as well, which had been taken out. The next couple of images show perhaps some of the most vivid hits. This is Jacobabad. This is a hangar which the Indian Air Force is absolutely certain is where the Pakistanis have deployed their F-16s. They keep them there. They're serviced over there. They're maintained over there. And if you come over here to an image from the 11th of May, a day after the strikes, you can see that this entire hangar has been destroyed. Anything over here would have been destroyed. Now, the Indian Air Force chief said 10 aircraft of the Pakistanis destroyed, in total 5 in the air approximately, and likely 5 on the ground as well, including F-16s over here in Jacobabad. The final set of images over here, and we'll just stick with this one image before we start our discussion, is of Bholari. This is where the Indian Air Force believes is certain, in fact, because they've made a claim that there was a Pakistani airborne warning and control systems aircraft, an extremely high value asset, which was located over here. There was a missile which went through over here in Bholari, and this was entirely destroyed, and that AWACS platform destroyed as well. But let's get more clarity on what this is all about. I'm joined by Air Marshal Khosla, the former Vice Chief of the Indian Air Force. Thanks, sir, very much for being with us. Firstly, sir, in as much as we are talking over here about those IAF strikes, I'd like you to reflect first on what the Army Chief said at a forward base of the Army, where he actually said that if Pakistan continues this, then Pakistan would cease to exist on geography. Its geography would be taken out. These are some of the most strident remarks that we've seen from any armed forces officer, chief, since Op Sindoor began. Is this an indicator, perhaps, that India is ready for Op Sindoor 2?
Yeah, Vishnu, thank you very much for inviting me, and it's always a pleasure talking to you. Yeah, so you rightly said, what Army Chief has said, and now you correlate with even Defense Minister before that, what he said that, history and geography will be changed. And it's in tune with the red lines drawn by India when the Prime Minister, after post-Op Sindoor 1, said one of the red lines was that any act of terror will be a declaration of war. It will be all-out war. So there'll be no, military response short of war as we have been doing so far, and it will be considered as war. So I think India is totally ready, and all these statements are in tune with, the political hierarchy as well as the military leaders are in sync with each other and prepared for any eventuality which Pakistan may like to, indulge in. And Vishnu, I'll just take 30 seconds more.
Yeah, please.
Why I'm bringing out this is, we thought Op Sindoor will have an effect on Pakistan, but, the situation has developed where US is supporting Asim Munir. China, as it is, has covert and overt support, and even they have a defense pact with Middle East, Saudi Arabia. These, events can encourage this desperate man to do something desperate. So that is what the situation is. We have to keep our guard up and keep our powder dry.
So the Indian Air Force chief has taken months to come out with the list of targets or hits in the air, right, and on the ground against Pakistan Air Force aircraft, very different from the air bases themselves, the pictures of which I showed. And now today he's added to that by saying that a C-130 Hercules of the Pakistan Air Force was taken out on the ground. Why did it take the IAF so much time to make these claims?
Yeah, so, it appears as if a lot of time has gone through, but I've been in a similar situation in Balakot also. So what I'll tell you is, although after Op Sindoor, all the three DGMO, DG Air Ops and DGNO gave a statement indicating what sort of action took place, and some hints were given. And Chief spoke in August for the first time and brought out a few issues. As far as C-130 is concerned, a lot of news channels, I think he also reported, and some images were shown of it burning on the ground. Okay, so what happens is when you're in the operations, so your first priority is to concentrate on the operations and not for these, start reporting whether how much damages have been done and all. Second phase is, you need to analyze the whole situation quickly. And in that analysis, bring out the things which need to be implemented straight away. That is immediate implementation. So your concentration is on that. Then follows phase 3, where you do detailed analysis and then you come out with what all actually happened and what sort of damages took place. Having said that, India is a responsible country, and if you make some claims, it's not like DG ISPR that you 8 o'clock make a statement and 9 o'clock you withdraw it. 10 o'clock you make some other statement, 11 o'clock you change it to something else. So it's if you want to be taken seriously, you have to bring out authentic, analyzed information. So it may appear that it is long, but notwithstanding this, information warfare is a necessary thing. And I think Kargil time we did well, where senior officers from not only 3 services, MEA and MOD briefed. So I'm told that this aspect is being looked after, and a new strategic vertical is being brought out under headquarter IDS to counter this fake and misinformation and disinformation.
Sir, the Indian Air Force Chief said that in the event of terrorists moving to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in Pakistan, the Indian Air Force can strike them there as well. That's stating the obvious, but there is a significance in the Indian Air Force Chief making those remarks. How would you interpret them?
Yeah, so Vishnu, so what is happening is, Pakistan is always worried about its strategic depth. Although diagonally, if you measure the country, is about 1875 kilometers and the other side is around 1800. But if you see the breadth of it, one side Afghanistan, one side India, the depth is not much more. And in today's world, where the warfare has gone into standoff long-range vectors, this is major shortcoming as far as Pakistan is concerned. Now you correlate with the terrorist activity. Earlier the response used to be just shelling across this thing. So all the launch pads which are close to the LOC, they were vacated. Okay, then Uri came, we went slightly inside in special forces. Then Balakot came, we went further deep inside. Now Op Sindoor, we have hit everything, all 9 terrorist camps, even the military targets subsequently when it escalated, entire length and breadth of Pakistan. Now what is left? What next? So they will go further, westward towards Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and that is not far away. From Delhi, the direct distance is, I think, around 850 odd kilometers, 800. From the border, it will be even lesser. And today's capability of standoff distances, precision, I think well within range to hit those targets. I think that's what he was alluding to, that you've got nowhere to hide.
I think the 2 hits, one on Bholari and one on Jacobabad, very significant. On Bholari, and we'll have those pictures up as well. There was a Pakistani AWACS aircraft which was likely taken out. And in Jacobabad, more than one, in fact, quite a few F-16 jets in an F-16 hangar. When I reached out to the US State Department, which monitors Pakistan's F-16s, they never denied that these hits had taken place. They just said that, we can't answer that. You're going to have to ask the Pakistanis. If there was a denial which was coming, then I would have assumed that a denial would have come from the Americans. They are pretty clear about these things. To me, that was an absolute clear indicator, well before the chief said what he had to, that we had actually struck them and struck them very, very hard. But I think it was these 2 strikes, Bholari and Jacobabad, which really sent the PAF a signal. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 things to my mind, turn the tide. One was, hitting the headquarters of both the major terrorist and second phase, third phase, when we hit back all the military targets across the country and all types of target you brought out earlier, the runways, command and control centers, 3 hangars, 6 odd radars, SCGW. So that was an indicator that we can hit you anywhere, we can hit you all types of target. That's what I think brought them to the knees. As far as the US is concerned, even after Balakot, they said no F-16 was shot down, and one shell, to my knowledge, to the intelligence, is that one shell was brought outside, and then they said no, all our airframes are there. I mean, nothing is there. Obviously, US interest is because their industry will get a bad name and they lose our business. So I remember that episode when you covered with Shivarur that, US said that go and ask Pakistan about that F-16. So they will deny it. And now the numbers add up. What Chief has said, 5 aircraft fighters in the air and one big aircraft, either Elant or AWC. And if you see ground target, 3 hangars hit, at least 2 or 3 F-16s may be there. One in the picture, you can see one AWC sort of aircraft inside. Not to include the UAV hangar which has been hit.
Sakkar, that's right. I showed that picture, but go ahead, sir.
Yeah, correct.
No, Air Marshal, you just said something really incredible. You said that there was intelligence available at that stage, and you were, what were you in when Balakot took place? You were very senior within the Air Force at that stage. What were you looking after?
No, I'm not saying intelligence was available. Even the open source had
No, but what you said that there was a shell of a Pakistani F-16 which was taken out.
Yeah. So, putting 2 and 2 together on the open media as well as whatever inputs we had, some aircraft movement took place from some place to Pakistan, and apparently it's a huge aircraft, and most probably, when you connected the dots, and after it came and few days later, Pakistan said, no, we have done a count and we have all the shells available. So that's what I was referring to.
And by shells, you mean F-16s, right?
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, aircraft fighter shells, F-16s, all the airframes
I think the clearest evidence, since I was tracking this so closely myself, was a soundbite of somebody on the ground who said there were 2 parachutes. A MiG-21, which Abhinandan flew, was a distinctly single-seater. So there was obviously a second one, which was Pakistani, because there was no other Indian Air Force aircraft which was shot down or on that side. Be that as it may, the Indian Air Force Chief today also spoke, and to me, sir, this was the real takeaway from today. He spoke about the need to plan for future wars and be ready. And that's, again, stating the obvious. But I think in our country, we tend to get sort of taken away by what we've achieved. We've done a great deal in Op Sindoor. It may not be the same in a future war because technology and tactics keep changing, right?
Yeah, Vishnu, before I answer this question, I'll just add to your comment. Actually, Pakistan initially reported 3 parachutes. And they also reported in the morning 3 pilots. And thereafter they made it 2, and by evening they made it 1. So that's why I said ISPR keeps changing his statement by the hour. Okay, as coming to the future wars, Chief, you also mentioned, no war is going to be repeated. I mean, there'll always be new things. But you need to learn the lessons from it, implement and move on and prepare for the future. And that is what he was also mentioning, and it's a continuous process. I think all militaries and all air forces do follow that procedure where you are looking at the entire world, what is happening. You're looking at the technology advancements. You're looking at what sort of organizational changes are going on. You're looking at what sort of wars are going on, what are changes, and then you prepare for the future. So he's rightly brought out, and what is happening is the war is becoming no contact warfare. The role of long range vectors and drones is increasing. On the flip side, the integrated air defense is coming in to mitigate these. Then technology is coming in a big way. Self-reliance is the mantra everyone is going into, being self-sufficient as far as weapons and other things are concerned. So we're also working on these lines, and multi-domain, that is cyber, space, EW, information. I think all these new domains which are coming into the warfare, I think we are also addressing all these. Only thing is we have started a bit late, and now we need to speed up so that we catch up with the world. And most important thing which he brought out is, joint planning and execution, which was done, it worked very well. And, a lot of debate goes on organizational changes. I think organizational changes priority should be to deal with the future threats immediately, which I alluded earlier.
Well, Air Marshal, thank you very much, sir, for being with us. Important remarks there by the former Vice Chief of the Indian Air Force, one of our finest fighter pilots and leaders, basically talking about the evolving nature of the threat that we face. And the fact that India has to be ready for future wars as well, that's stating the obvious. But given the nature of the technology which is changing, the threats which are changing, it's something that India needs to look at very, very closely. These remarks coming on a day when both the Army Chief and the Air Force Chief were absolutely clear about how they remain completely focused on the entire theme of security in the context of Pakistan. We are completely out of time. On Left, Right and Centre, from all of us here, good night.